Hello, I'm Sam Connell,
And I'm Kathleen Kraus.
and we are Booked Solid, the podcast for young adults, new adults, and the forever young adults at heart. We are both librarians at New Canaan Library, and we are wrapping up our third season of this podcast. I have some bittersweet news. I'm still staying at New Canaan Library, but I've accepted a position as Director of Development, which I'm so excited about. I'm really looking forward to supporting our librarians and the wonderful work we do here. However, I will be moving off of this podcast.
And it's going to be so hard not to do this with you. We've had so many good times. We've had so many struggles this season in particular, but it's been so much fun.
We laughed more than we cried, I think.
It was close. This season it was close, but yeah. No, we've had a good time. We were slightly traumatized, but mostly it was fun.
We've been through the pandemic. We've been through recording on Skype, recording in mass and social distancing. And we've even pivoted the podcast when I moved from teen services to adult services. So there should be more pivots in our future, but we'll come back to that. For this month, for my last podcast recording with Kathleen, we read Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson.
So this is the story of Lillian and Madison, who were these roommates at an elite boarding school. And after Lillian has to leave in the wake of a scandal, they don't really keep in touch, but they do write letters to each other. And at the beginning of the story, Lillian has just received a letter from Madison begging for her help with a pretty unusual problem. Madison has these twin stepkids that she wants Lillian to watch over the summer. And as Lillian soon discovers, they burst into flames in moments of great emotion. Kind of an unusual problem that Lillian is tasked with trying to manage as Madison's husband tries to work on his political career and opportunities there, and they don't really know what to do with these kids, so it's all on Lillian to figure it out. And so they have this kind of wild, magical summer, learning and growing together.
It's such a bizarre premise, and I sort of read it blind. But before we dig in, I just want to give a spoiler warning. We do discuss the entire book. So if you have not read it, please pause the recording and circle back after you've read it. I do recommend you read it. So Kathleen, what did you think of the book?
Well, this is not going to come as a surprise to anyone because I accidentally started gushing about the book at the end of the last podcast episode we did when we introduced this. I love this book. I loved it even reading it a second time. The first time I listened to the audio, this time I read the print book, and it's such a great book. The writing is, I love the writing so much. I mean, it's a great story and I love the story, but every sentence is like completely my sense of humor and completely delightful.
I can see that. The writing really, because you like concise writing. You don't like long descriptive passages. It's very action and dialogue driven. It's very witty, sharp, and funny. And a lot of the humor comes from outrageous or things that should be upsetting. So I can totally see that you love the writing. I loved it too. I was really surprised. So I listened to it blind. I listened to it as an audiobook. And our librarians, if you go to Libby through newcanaanlibrary.org, our librarians curate an amazing collection of books. And so I found one of these collections. I happened to have to drive that weekend to and from Vermont, which is 5 hours for me in both directions. And so I just selected the title, blindly trusting our collections department, and it was wonderful. I was riveted. So I listened to it, and I will tell you that the woman that does the recording, I'll have to pull up her name, she was brilliant.
She really is. So the first time I listened to it, and that was one of the things that I was so struck by, is that, I think some audiobooks, you at least feel like you're listening to a book. I really just felt like I was listening to her talk. And it felt so natural. It felt so engaging, just like listening to the most interesting person speak.
Yeah, so I just looked her up. The name is Marin Ireland, and she's done other books. And so almost this story is set in the South, and almost every character has a Southern accent. The nuanced performance from Madison's sort of fancy boarding school Southern experience to Lillian's sort of street smart, wisecracks, and the children, even and Jasper, the Senator Jasper Roberts, political, sort of self-important. She just does such a beautiful job with all of these characters. Did it read that way?
I mean, it's so hard because I think even when I was reading it, I was probably hearing it a little in her voice even afterwards. But I do think that there are maybe word choices, maybe ways where you do get such a sense of these characters. And they do have a very nuanced way of being presented on the page. Yeah, I think that's one of the really nice things is that there are sometimes when you can read a book and you don't feel that the dialogue is the main event or that each character is very distinctive from another, but they really are. And I think the dialogue in this is so great.
The character development, let's talk about that for a moment. As you were saying, the subtle differences in not just the word choice, the way they say it, how they behave in different situations. I loved every single character in this book, in the sense that even the characters that I don't like as people, I loved reading about.
Absolutely. I think there are some people where I really struggle with the things that they do. But you have such an affection for them by the end, even if you're like, why are they doing that? Or even if they're like super weird, like that doctor they go to visit. I would not want to meet this man who thinks that the children are either sent from God or demons, and
that was
he's
wild.
Not sure it could go either way.
You make such a funny point. Like, I totally agree. Like, that interaction was so uncomfortable, and yet I laughed my way through it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really think that's something Kevin Wilson does so well. So let's talk a little bit about Madison and Lillian, the center of this. So their relationship began when Lillian, who's brilliant and did well in school, gets this wonderful scholarship to this very elite boarding school. And Madison happens to be her first roommate. And Lillian's expecting this to be really difficult. She's the scholarship student among these very, very wealthy families. Madison turns out to be a surprise. She's quirky and weird too.
I don't know if I've read so many books that are just this is from Lillian's perspective, and it's just such a celebration of people who are just weird and kind of somehow different from other people, kind of offbeat. They have something about them. And I really like that when she sees that in people, she really celebrates it, and that's kind of her way of connecting with Madison. I did think that was really an interesting thing to see how that whatever kind of weirdness manifests in different people, because Madison's life obviously is so different from Lillian's, and her expectations from her family of how to behave, and even she kind of has these like political aspirations. All of that informs how she's able to present herself. So she kind of has like the secret hidden weirdness.
Yes, but that's why they become so close. Madison absolutely feels comfortable being her true self around Lillian. And Lillian, I mean, from the outset, sort of falls madly for Madison. Every time, even when Madison is behaving terribly or selfishly, Lillian's constantly obsessed with how beautiful she is, right? That's a central part to their relationship, that even when Lillian suspects she's not being treated well or fairly by her quote-unquote closest friend, she still can't help but continue to be her friend and just wanting to be near her and around her, which was a little heartbreaking to follow that friendship arc.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, Lillian definitely needs some other friends to tell her this is not okay. Madison is being terrible to you. And there are things, I mean, definitely the big thing that happens when they're at school. And then even later, you know, as Lillian is working for Madison, there are just things that she does that are so frustrating. But I think the way it's presented, it makes sense for the type of person Madison is. And Lillian is not a reliable narrator when it comes to Madison, obviously, but I think it's very interesting to see just how I was finding myself going back and forth with like, I hate this woman, and just like, but I can see sometimes like also what her good qualities are. But the big thing that happens right at the school is the reason that Lillian has to leave. And how did you feel about that? Because I was, it's so enraging.
That was terrible. What was hard about that is Madison has her own group of friends that are sort of, wealthy, sort of the popular pack, and her relationship with Lillian is sort of off to the side. It's when they're alone in their dorm rooms, they can be open with each other. So Madison parties with them and is drinking and doing some drugs, and because I forget the way Kevin Wilson presented it, but it was almost like Madison let her guard down. It was maybe too real. Somebody got a little bit mad and basically narked on her. And so they found the bag of coke in the dorm room. So the terrible event is that Madison's father invites Lillian and her mother out to dinner and basically pays Lillian's mother off $10,000 for Lillian to take the fall for the coke that she had nothing to do with. What's interesting about that, I didn't find Madison to be the villain in that situation because it was really her father that I thought was terrible. He sort of just did the whole thing, and Madison just sort of sat there and, looked down. And it made me really dislike Lillian's mother for not standing up for her daughter and for taking it and basically taking the money and spending it on herself. So she doesn't even use this money to be a good mother or support Lillian in any way. And of course, so Madison's father is saying, I'm sure it's just going to be a slap on the wrist. You're a scholarship student. You've worked really hard. But she ends up getting kicked out. And so that's just a terrible way for her relationship, for their friendship to almost end. But then they start writing letters to each other.
That is definitely an unexpected and I don't remember how it kind of comes about because they should cut all ties. And I do think there's some embarrassment on Madison's part, and Lillian, I think, is just still in love with her, so still kind of like, this connection is fine, it exists, and again, like, they're always in sort of a liminal space where their relationship exists. It's never like their real life or the real world exactly, but some other sort of in between.
Right.
But,
well, let me ask you a question. I find that the worst incident that Madison, I was so disappointed in Madison, was the basketball pickup game.
That was the moment when I hated her the most.
Me too.
Because she doesn't seem to have limits, because she will just do anything. It just felt so selfish.
And unnecessary.
Yes. I thought that was interesting, and I don't really even know. I think that's probably the biggest thing, that my biggest grudge against her. Even now, I'm like, she's too selfish. She's brutal. She's...
That was it for me. I mean, so they have this pickup game, and at this point, Lillian's already agreed to watch these stepkids that Madison has, Roland and Bessie, and we've talked a lot about their Lillian and Madison's friendship, but the real thing that we have to, the elephant in the room, is that these kids burst into flames. Right?
We haven't even gotten
to the fact that these kids burst into flames. But getting back, well, I do think I think friendship is a central theme here, but while Lillian is watching these two kids for her friend, and yes, she hires her, but even that's not very nice, right? She's like, well, you have nothing better going on, right? Like, yeah. It's not like, this is wonderful, my friend is going to be a nanny for me. So while she's watching these kids, Madison comes out with her son and asks to play a pickup game, and it is a brutal, it's tied at 9-9, and I think Lillian went up for a shot, and Madison basically hits her in the eye with her elbow. Really, really hurts her. As much as that moment made me really dislike Madison, it made me really like Lillian and Bessie. Because Bessie was so rooting for Lillian, and that's when she decides she wants to play basketball. I feel that Lily and Bessie had some weird connection where they're both kids in this world that just got such a raw deal and are just, life continues to not kick them in the face, but maybe elbow them in the eye. And they just both have this understanding that we just have to keep going and keep surviving.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the thing about, as you said, I think Bessie in particular, but the connection that Lillian forms with these kids, because they don't really fit in anywhere. They are neglected. They are kind of an inconvenience. They don't make sense. And I think that was one of the big conflicts even with Lillian being at that school. She was smart, she was talented, but she was never going to belong. And so it was easy to make her have to go back to her old life and restore that sort of order. So I do think that they find a real kinship, and that's what's so beautiful about the relationship that develops between her and the fire children. That they have, in spite of Lillian not bursting into flames, there's something at their core that is so similar.
I agree. And it's so funny because when they first meet, that's another hilarious scene where Lillian goes to pick up these two kids and they're in the pool and Bessie nearly bites her finger off in a very violent, wild interaction. And she's clearly the leader. She's the stronger personality. Sort of whatever Bessie says, Roland will follow along. But that relationship, as Bessie comes to trust Lillian, and see how they're similar, and I like the way that I think we're both as teen librarians can appreciate that Lillian never lies to these kids, even when maybe she should.
Yeah.
and I think that's really key to their relationship. And I mean, what that basketball scene shows me, what their relationship and Lillian not promising them a world, just that she's going to do her best, given what her capacity is and how she can. And I think there's something very beautiful about that message. You just do your best, and you're honest with each other, and you help each other get through the world. And it's amazing that Kevin Wilson uses this device of these kids bursting into flames, and it works for all of these beautiful takeaways and all of these almost life lessons. You can take something as so unrealistic as people bursting into flames. And when I first started reading it, I really didn't think he could take it very deep, but it goes so deep in terms of family, relationship, love, sacrifice, and how sometimes the most important thing people can do is to hold on to something and someone that you care about and do your best for that person.
Yeah, I know. It feels like a gimmick. It feels like, oh, ha ha, they burst into flames, and then you're crying.
Oh my gosh, I was sobbing at the end. So things go really wild, right? As these kids are sort of relegated to this like hidden house cottage where Lillian's trying to keep them out of view while Jasper and Madison pursue their political dreams and goals. Suddenly, their son Timothy, in the most outrageous public display, I think they're swearing Jasper in on public TV.
Yep.
When Timothy bursts into flames, and of course they like put him out and throw him in a car that's waiting, and they have, they chalk it up. Their PR machine chalks it up to just, a fire they put out, and that Timothy's fine. The story just spins out of control from there. Then the house is burning down, and it's just like, I mean, it literally total chaos. Lillian takes the kids, throws them in her car, and just drives away. The wonderful moment of just being in the summer, in this almost fantasy hidden world of we're safe here in this little cottage. Everything literally burns down at this point. And it's sort of fascinating how it comes back together after that.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a point of no return. And I don't know if I had any expectation for where Lillian would go, but I guess it makes sense that she doesn't really have anywhere else. So she does go to her mom's house. Her mom is still failing her.
Yeah, but she almost comes to terms with her mother failing her, and she lets go of wanting her mom to change or wanting her mom to be different, and she just starts, much as she's had to accept these kids for who they are, I think at the very end she accepts her mother for what those limitations have been in her life. It's a little tragic, but also uplifting.
It is a little tragic, but yeah, I think it is kind of just like that's her growing up. That's her saying, I'm not going to hold on to that, and I found something. I mean, it's really, this kind of found family story, and maybe your own family lets you down or doesn't understand you, and you don't behave the way they want, or you don't fit that kind of image that they want to project. But I think, she's so open and honest with Bessie and Roland, and there's this level of respect between them, which maybe she never found with her mom. And I think that's something nice that she has at the end.
I agree. And it's sort of lovely because all throughout the book, Lillian has this end point at the end of the summer, and she's open with the kids about that. But you can start to see, and your heart starts to ache as you see how much Bessie needs Lillian in her life, and how, like Lillian, Bessie's never had something to hold on to, or someone who was willing to hold on to her. And so at the very end of the story, Madison comes to visit. Carl comes to visit. By the way, Carl's another hilarious character. He's so funny. That scene when they try to go and get a library book and they steal the library book is as a librarian, I found that to be a hilarious scene.
It's great.
Anyway, so Madison offers to give Lillian custody of the kids. And I like that Lillian is saying everything's going to be okay from here on out. It's almost like we just have to take this a day at a time. And the first thing she does is she goes and she gets a basketball to play with the kids. And I was sobbing at the end of this book. I loved it. I needed it. I needed Bessie and Roland to be loved so badly, and I needed Lillian. She just keeps going. I mean, this girl's gotten her finger bitten off. She's gotten elbowed, and these kids are going on fire, and you just are rooting for her. And her mother is such a disappointment in terms of, and she's this brilliant student, and she wasn't really going anywhere in her life, and she has no ability to make friends and hang out with other people. It's incredible that Bessie and Roland found Lillian, and Lillian is part of their lives, and it was very uplifting. And this idea of family is really just somebody that just is never going to give up on you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is there are so many moments where it feels like, oh, this is the moment where they have to give up. It's too hard. And there's always a solution. There's always a way through.
It's funny because Madison really didn't feel that way, but it shifted so much when Timothy, and it's remarkable because so much was pinned on Roland and Bessie's mother, and she was mentally ill, and she took her own life and actually tried to, really rough scene that was so sad when Bessie confesses to Lillian that their mother tried to kill them.
Yeah. That, especially not remembering that and going back into it, I just couldn't believe the dark, because you have this balance of oh, this is funny, this is witty, and then all of a sudden the darkness comes rushing back in, and you realize these kids have been through a lot.
So what do you think of as the bursting into flames? Do you see it as a metaphor? Do you see it as do you think that it was intentionally something that doesn't exist in this world, so everyone who sees something different in themselves can see themselves in flame bursting?
I think you can definitely kind of see whatever it is in yourself that doesn't quite fit the mold as maybe this form of bursting into flames. I mean, it's, obviously having the house burned down at the end, or the danger of it. All of these things are great. But I also just Lillian has this one line where she's just thinking about how wonderful it would be if everyone had to stand at a respectful distance, which just really cracks me up, but it's so true, I guess.
That's so like you to find the silver lining of some strange. So, of course you're going to say, wow, that's lovely. Because there was what was the book we read when you saw the silver lining to not being remembered?
Yeah, and in Addie LaRue, I was like, well, you can try out your jokes, and if they don't work, you come back. But yeah, I mean, I guess that line really did resonate with me. But yeah, you are ostracized, but you also have a certain amount of power, I guess.
That's another beautiful scene when Bessie has that like heart to heart at night with Lillian and shows her that she can kind of control it, and she shows her the flames, and Lillian's enthralled at her beauty, and that, like you say, there's something powerfully beautiful about what she can do. And throughout the book, everyone's just responding to the danger and the problems, and because of their bursting into flames when they're upset. But yeah, there's a lot of, you don't have to understand something to know that there's a power and a beauty there.
I think that's such a good point. They're thinking about themselves, and they're just worried about their own safety or their own property. And there's not a lot of, well, what does this mean? And she's really seeing Bessie for who she is rather than the uncertainty that she brings, or the danger or the chaos. And I do think that's maybe the only person who can see that in her.
I really understand that because I have a problematic dog. He got kicked out of daycare. But apparently that's a common thing. I've since met a lot of people who had their dogs kicked out of daycare. But I love that you said that, Kathleen, that Lillian actually sees Bessie. Everybody else sees, the logistics, the problems. We're going to need a fire extinguisher and yoga lesson. And in that scene where she's really, Roland's asleep and she and Bessie are really connecting, I agree that she really saw this person for her whole being. And poor Bessie to never have that.
Yeah.
And she has a lot of behavior problems too, and she lashes out, and she's violent and all of these things. Very, very defensive and protective of Roland because she's had to be.
And to forgive someone after biting you that hard that you almost lose a finger.
That is a very funny scene where she's trying to put herself back together and then she has to borrow a dress. It was just so, gosh. He does a really great job. I love this book. I thought it was just such a nice balance of something unique that I'd never read before, something really interesting. It doesn't really fit in a category that I can think of. I don't really think of this as fantasy. It feels like realistic fiction, especially in the way that it explores relationships, and yet the premise is absolutely fantasy.
So do you have a quote for us?
Okay, I do. And I'm all over it because, I'm all over the place with it, I should say, because I've marked 2 quotes. The first one was the basketball game, but I think we've really discussed that, so I'm just going to go to the scene that just stayed with me. It's hard for me to pick a quote sometimes because you want something that really represents the book, but this I thought was really powerful. It's a little heavy and emotional, but I will say that most of the book is that short, rapid fire, quirky, funny dialogue and thoughts. But this is the scene where they're sort of deciding what to do with the kids, and Lillian and Madison I think they go deeper and have sort of more of a heart-to-heart than they've ever had before. So, Madison says, "I wish I'd been a better friend to you. I wish I'd done the right thing and taken the blame. Honestly, I'd still be right here. Nothing was going to keep me from this, but okay, maybe your life would have been better." "I was in love with you," I told her. "I know you were," she admitted. She took a shot, and it clanged off the rim, and that gave me this tiny measure of hope. It was so easy to be in love with you back then, and I liked it because as long as I was in love with you, I didn't have to love anyone else, I said. And I've always kind of been in love with you, and I'm still kind of in love with you. She nodded. Then she looked over at me. She was so beautiful, and I remembered those nights in our dorm when she looked at me and accepted my weirdness. She held on to me like nothing mattered. She was kind to me, even if it had only been a few months. It was longer than anyone else had. I'm going to skip to another part. "Could you just say it?" I asked her. If I heard her admit it, if I heard the words in her own voice, I could remember them, could replay them in my head. Maybe it would be enough. "I can't," she admitted. "Lillian, I can't." And that was it. What else could I do? "Please don't send the kids away," I told her. So much there. Their love for each other, the fact that Madison is always going to care about where she goes in life, Madison always has to win, and she won't give it to Lillian. She won't tell Lillian that she loves her too. And Lillian just accepting it and thinking about what's the one thing that matters. And so she just begs her friend not to send the kids away. Ugh.
And it's funny because it's such a quiet scene in a way, but it's just brutal.
It is so brutal. Yeah, that one really stayed with me. There's a lot of just like that scene, just very strongly written scenes. That first basketball scene, the scene with her father buying off Lillian's mother, even when they first meet each other, and how the kids react to their father and they don't like him, and the scene where Bessie confides about her mother to, there's just so many scenes that are just so powerful. And then there's scenes where it's almost high comedy when Lillian's dripping wet and beaten up with like a bloodied finger that she pulled out of Bessie's mouth.
I'm not sure what Lillian looks like by the end of this. I mean,
she's constantly being rough. We didn't even get to the whole scene where Lillian feels so strongly about defending Bessie's choice to write a report on Dolly Parton was just like the funniest scene ever. And she just came after Jasper with that. It was so good. Yeah, it's so unique. I don't know how you possibly could have come up with read-alikes, but did you give it a shot?
So I did try, and it was so hard because how do you balance all of these things? So these are some things I was thinking about. And the first one is actually a little out there, I will say. So this is not a fiction book. This is more of a memoir, and this is by Shirley Jackson, who is better known for horror. So she wrote We've Always Lived in the Castle, The Haunting of Hill House, but she also wrote all of these like charming little essays for magazines in the 50s about her family life. And so there's this book that is just a series of vignettes on like cute things her family does called Life Among the Savages. And it kind of reminded me of Lillian's relationship with Bessie and Roland. They're sort of feral children, much as Shirley Jackson's children are. And so they're kind of like just these witty stories about these funny little things that happen in her life. But there's also definitely, I wouldn't say a darkness, but really kind of thinking about the social mores and things that are going on in the 50s and how they don't really fit into rural Vermont, which is where they're living. And she wrote The Lottery kind of based on how their neighbors don't exactly like them or understand them. So I thought it was like a good mix of those really cute, kind of funny, here are some stories about kids, but also maybe the world doesn't totally accept you, and it's also funny. Like I don't want to sound like, I'm reading another really dark story. Not dark like her fiction at all. So that's Life Among the Savages. The next one I thought about was Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Maria Semple, which came out about 10 years ago, maybe. The thing that stuck with me was just the very witty, clever, breezy writing style. So kind of reminded me of that in terms of the writing and just this quirky family. So Bernadette is the main character, and her daughter Bee just graduated from 8th grade and she wants a family trip to Antarctica. And then it's all kind of told in like letters and things like that. And Bernadette vanishes is the title kind of lets you know that it's going to happen. But so she vanishes. People aren't sure what happened, and it tells the story through these letters and emails and things, so that you figure out what happened. So kind of funny, but also hinting at some family darkness too. Family darkness. That's a thing that I like. One of my
family darkness is a very strong theme for you.
And then lastly, this is a bit of a cheat because this was actually, I recommended Nothing to See Here for when we did House in the Cerulean Sea. But I just wanted to bring it up again that they really do remind me of each other.
I completely didn't remember that you had this as a read-alike.
This was last season. This was the end of last season, so it was a while ago. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like that found family story and these kids who have a lot of strange abilities.
Yeah. Relationships and connecting to people who are so different than yourself. Yeah, that's a solid read alike.
Yeah, I think they really...
You did such a nice job patting yourself on the back. I wanted to join in.
I'm just saying, go back to season 2, episode 6 if you haven't, and listen to our brilliant discussion on House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune.
So, what's next? What are we reading next? What are we doing next?
I don't know what you're doing, but I know that I'm going to be continuing the podcast for season 4, and we will miss you. But we have a new co-host
of the podcast? Yes. We just brought someone in the room. We're really excited. Do you want
he doesn't know what this is about. You know, this is the moment. Yeah.
I will have everyone know that I have a signed contract. Our new co-host of the podcast is James Luty, who is one of our adult librarians, and we brought him in to say hello. And he's already famous, right?
Hi everyone. This is my unscripted introduction. Pulled off the desk just to give you guys a heads up to say that I'm going to be joining you for the season 4 of the podcast with Kathleen.
Is this the most exciting thing you've done in a long time?
No, but I'm happy to do this. This seems pretty cool. It's a great podcast, and I'm happy to read some books.
I'm so excited. This is very bittersweet for me because Kathleen and I have been doing this for 3 seasons. I love this podcast, obviously. I may or may not have bribed James with cookies to agree to this.
She definitely did.
Themed cookies.
But the thing I'm excited about is that I love talking about books with both of you, and I'm going to be so excited to listen to what you guys do. You both like this book, right? Well, we're not supposed to say, right?
I haven't read it.
Oh.
This will truly be...
Okay.
Yeah, you will find out next season.
So we are going to read Circe by Madeline Miller, and I'm very excited about it because as I move into the development office, it is our headlining author visiting us for our lit lunch that we do every November. You've already read the book.
I have already read the book.
Okay.
So this is a bit of a cheat for me, but yes, I'm excited to read it again. It's I'm going to save it for the podcast. I'm going to save it.
That's fine. We have a lot of listeners and we've got a following in Norway, Germany.
All of
James
Europe.
is trying to not laugh out loud at our readership stats, which is not nice, James.
No.
But
You started naming the countries. I'm sorry, that's what did it for me.
So we're so excited. I can't wait to listen, and I will bump up your listenership in Connecticut.
Well, thank you. And
Oh,
this
I'm
has been a
gonna
great...
miss this.
Big shoes to fill.
I'm excited for you guys. Good luck. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.